Afternoon. How's it going, dude?
Is it afternoon? Yes,
Yeah,
it is. How are you?
is. I'm very good, thanks. What about you?
I got an email this morning. It made me a bit on the angry side. But I've come to a conclusion.
Right.
Basically, well, you know, some other
I?
people may know. Doesn't really matter. You know, my mum passed away back in 2016, and so we're still dealing with the old inheritance tax malarkey. And I got an email this morning from our solicitors giving us a bill for all their services.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you know, fair enough, you do need to be paid for.
Yeah.
But after seeing it, it's like £90 for them to answer an email.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like...
Are you answering this for the video?
Well...
Like a video edit?
No, but it did make me think. I thought, this is just... And I had a chat with my sister, and we got a bit riled up about it, and then just thought, okay, we're just going to have to deal with it. Because you daren't ask them any more questions in case you get charged.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So,
yeah. Hey, guys, can we chat about this real quick? Yep, it's going to be another hour.
Yeah, it's going to be another hour. And so, like, there were emails, and obviously I felt penalised because, you know, I don't know how to deal with inheritance tax and all that stuff, so you're just, as a naive, ignorant person, you're just asking questions like, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? And every time you do that, it costs you like 30 or 90 quid, or however long it takes for them to reply. So now I think I've decided I'm going to charge the same way as solicitors do when I'm making videos.
Oh, I know.
Because what happens now is that you watch how many fucking changes to your piece of perfection that you sent them. You know, how many changes will actually happen?
Yeah.
None. Because you put them in a situation like solicitors did with us, who go, well, I don't want to ask him anything because it's going to cost me 150 quid.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah, I think all creatives should start charging like solicitors do. And I think we'll all be a lot better off. More better off.
Do you know what? It's a hard one, right? Because for design, I would charge an hourly rate.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't charge the same way as I would for video as I would for design.
Yeah.
And it's great because you just rally up the hours.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of like it works in your favor sometimes and it works against you sometimes. So sometimes it's very clear. Like there's a time it's very difficult because you can't always apply that method. So like if I was designing a logo for someone or doing a brand, if I was recreating a brand, you know, upgrading a brand, creating a new brand, logo, identity, typeface, color schemes, all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't charge £50 an hour. That's, you know, that would be an hourly rate. But I wouldn't do that. I would work it out as a lump package based on a rough amount estimate of my time, but then also what it's worth to them, like what the value is to the end person, because a logo to a local bakery is very different from a logo to a new up-and-coming clothing brand. But, you know, it's how they use it and that sort of stuff. But on video, it's hard to judge by the hour because sometimes I think you undervalue a lot if you charge by the hour. So if you can apply that to admin, if you can go, not a problem, this is my rate for video, but I also have a £25 an hour admin charge. So that's like from the minute we decide to do business.
Technically,
all admin.
You should be doing that because, like, when I used to work for a video production company, obviously they would work it out like, well, the cameraman's going to cost this much for the day, producer will cost this much, sound guy will cost this much. Right now, we need an office charge, to like an admin charge, and then obviously that you got in that you got to think, well, we got to pay for rent, electricity, storage of your stuff on hard drives, all that kind of stuff, and that's why, you know, video production companies end up being a whole lot more expensive. But you see, freelancers, a lot of them don't take any of that into consideration. So all those people that go, oh yeah, I'll do your video for £100.
Yeah.
Not really thinking, well, how are you going to get from that venue to that venue?
Yeah.
And how many emails have you done, you know, setting this up? Have you charged them for pre-production? Have you just given away all your ideas and then, you know, all for the £100? And most people do not include, they think, oh, I've shot for a day, and they don't even think about the edit. In terms of cost. And I think it was just interesting because when that came back, obviously, you know, we all need to make money and, you know, do our thing, but I just found it pretty shocking that with a solicitor, it's like, wow, you literally clock every email you open. And I think, you know, part of me goes, yeah, if you did that for us, like every admin email, like, so you know, when you go back and go, well, I want this change. Oh, actually, Dave's just come back from holiday and he doesn't want to be in it anymore. And and now he said this. And then you got 4 or 5 emails at, you know, £30, £90 an email. Mm-hmm. They'd probably stop making changes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or would be a lot more efficient.
They definitely start to prioritize what changes were important. So maybe little things like, not sure about that bit of 25 seconds. Really? It's going to cost you 50 quid to discuss it.
Yeah.
To
discuss it. And
right.
then it's going to cost you another 150 quid just to open Final Cut. But if it's Premiere, it's an extra 250 quid because it's going to take a bit longer.
Yeah.
It's a little digging.
Fucking
See what I did there?
IGTV
What have you
today.
done? What have you done today?
Well,
you haven't done anything stupid, have you?
No, I've gone to fucking upload our IGTV video, and then it just didn't add the thumbnail. IGTV's a pain in the dick because you can't update the thumbnail afterwards, so I deleted it immediately, and now I'm trying to fix it, and it's like it just keeps popping up some weird.
You just opened up our Facebook page. You should go to something called Creator Studio, because from there you can schedule and upload IGTV videos. So I think you can make more changes and that kind of thing. Yeah,
well, that's why I set up a Facebook for it yesterday. So I'm gonna go backdate post shit on that. But regarding that charging thing, this is the thing. Like you and I have discussed costs and pricing a lot, and I charge a big, way less than you charge for video production, but a lot of that's to do with the fact that you're in London and I'm in Belfast. But I charge more than most people here for video production. Not like insane amounts, but a fair bit more. And that's because of all that shit that you've just said. And when I started this, to anyone listening, like having worked brand and agency side, I knew a lot of stuff. But then when I left, it wasn't until I started talking to Ryan and we started chatting a bit more, he opened my eyes to certain things things like that I'd forgotten. Little bits like how do you cover your rent, how do you cover your electric, how do you cover your gears, how do you cover wear and tear, all that stuff needs to be. It's clients, like I don't know about you, right, but I don't agree with people who charge for gear. Like when people go, oh yeah, I cost £400 for example, and then it's £200 for my camera and this mic and all this shit. As far as I'm concerned, the gear that I own is the gear that I bring to the table, unless you need something particular. So if you need to shoot this in a very particular style and I need to go hire a C300 or a Phantom or something, if I have to go, I mean, I ain't doing that. But if I need to go hire that, that's when I will add a charge.
Yeah, generally I would find the only clients that would do that are clients that know their shit.
Yeah.
So they will go to you, Dylan, we want you to do this, but we need you to shoot it on a Red camera.
Yeah.
At which point you can go, well, I'm going to need to hire that camera and an operator for it.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost X amount.
Yeah.
I think one factor in that, which is really interesting, is the use of a drone. Because it used to be that drone was like an extra.
Yeah.
And I think now, especially now they're changing, well, who knows when they're going to be changing the laws, because the coronavirus has kind of put everything on, like, it's all been pushed back and it's kind of weird. But yeah, so now it's like, especially, I mean, you've got the Mavic Mini, haven't you?
Yeah.
And, so once you get your license, which is, you can just turn up and, do your job at that car place you do. And you'll just whip the drone up, throw it around a bit, and that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that. The Mavic Mini is now part of your normal camera gear. Yeah. Whereas it used to be, it would be more than that. You go, well, it's going to cost you X amount for the camera. Oh, but you want a drone shot, right? That's going to cost you extra. But technically, you should be charging extra because you do need to have things like insurance, and you do need to take a test, and you do need to have like the month or the yearly, a registration. And then I think they're changing it now, so you have to do the test once every 5 years. I think it will be. Yeah. But I'm not sure on that. But
from what I've read as well, the limitations are changing as well. So it'll open it up to people like me to be able to do small little bits. But if you still like currently the way I go, if ever people want drone stuff, I'm not licensed, so I use Sourcegate for all drone stuff, and I just add him in on his rate to shoot it. So and I don't make any money from that. I just go, what, dude? I need you to shoot a drone. Give me a rate for a day or a half day or 2 days, whatever, and I add that on top if a drone shot's requested. So I think going forward in things like that, if say I got my license and I was approved, it's a real hard one because I agree, you should be adding more on if drone shots are required, because you are then you have to think about liability. you are suddenly
yeah.
the
That's
risk
what you
is
are thinking
higher, and
about.
this is what people don't
Yeah.
understand. And it's the same thing with filming in locations. Like if you
Yeah.
go to someone's location and you film something, that's one thing. But if they go, can we film this outside the city hall? You go, yeah, that's cool, but that's actually going to be more. Because
Yeah.
I now have to contact City Hall. I have to get approval to film and photograph in front of public or like privately owned businesses
Yeah.
and stuff. And what people don't understand is, like we were discussing this a couple of weeks ago, is that you aren't allowed necessarily to shoot in front of any old building you want. I mean, a lot of times small things get through the cracks, but you can't just go shoot a commercial outside City Hall without, or like what we say in Buckingham Palace, without getting approval.
Oh, yeah,
so all that stuff you
can't-
have to do.
yeah.
That takes time. And you're liable for any stuff that isn't done, or if someone from the general public trips up over a tripod while you're out. There's all those little things. And I know you're
public liability insurance is like so important, and it's something like so many videographers and photographers just don't have.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of kids or young people out there that I want to be a photographer. I want to do this, and it's all fine and cool and groovy until something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like in a big way. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and I appreciate that you have to charge less if you're just starting out in your journey.
Yeah.
But there are certain things you need to know about and you need to, be aware of. And, the less you charge, you're putting yourself in a more potentially harmful situation in the long run.
Yeah.
And you're also kind of ruining the industry for your future.
Yeah.
Because, if you're undercharging just because you want the job and you're going to forgo all the insurances and everything, there's going to be some kid in 10 years' time, or maybe even 8 years' time, that's going to do it for even less than you.
Yeah.
With less worries. And, it just keeps on going. And I think it's about time we took a stand, Dylan.
Yeah. Public liability is a mad one as well, because when I first, I have had, since I've gone full-time freelance, I've done everything legit like that, and I was like, oh, it feels like a waste. Until you and I did our first, like, bigger job together, and that was the first time it was requested. Can you guys prove your public liability insurance? And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the guys will get to the point where they go, oh, I don't have any. And it's like, oh, well, I can't hire you then because you aren't insured. Same as like
we were really
VAT
lucky.
registered. I've had some jobs come through where I couldn't do them because I'm not VAT registered, which is mad.
Well, what I had to, with that job you were talking about, normally their request came in and I had to spend a lot of time going back and forth with them because they were like, we need public liability. I think it was something like 5 million.
Yeah.
And my public liability on the insurance I currently had only did 3.
Yeah.
Because they were categorizing us in the same bracket as you would like a building contractor, because they didn't really have a system that could cope with like a creative photography and videography. So they were putting us in this other category. So I kept on going back and I had to sign all these forms and documents, and I said, look, you have to change it because I'm not signing this where it says 5 million.
Yeah.
And I can only give you 3. I've told you I can only give you 3.
Yeah.
And it was just, but it was all that back and forth trying to sort that out.
Yeah.
And we did get quite well paid for that job, but that's where the money goes.
Yeah.
It's just endless, like form signing, filling all this stuff out. I mean, luckily because I hired you, I guess it was, you didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
So, you were quite lucky on that in that terms. But then like when you hired Sourcescape to do that job you did recently, he doesn't see any of that shit either. You just go, we need to do a job here, and he goes, okay, fine, I'll get the permissions for my drone. But he doesn't know anything about anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And like I did a job, a month-long filming job last year, and I had to hire. Well, I had to have him. I had to have second camera people hired. I had to have actors, extras, locations approved, filming rights approved, and some filming rights paid for. And like you look at a big lump of money, and you go, Jesus, that's a shit ton of money. That's almost a salary for the year. And then you go, cool. Once you pay all the people, you're like, oh, okay, that's like a third of what was put in front of us. And I don't think people understand that side of it at all, especially when you're getting into it. Because I sure as hell didn't. Yeah. And I still learn shit every single day.
I think that's why it's really good to actually work for. I mean, they're few and far between now, because obviously video production companies are finding it harder to, have bricks and mortar, where you can kind of have everyone in the office.
Yeah.
So I think there's more opportunity now for freelancers, or maybe just like little like communities and social groups to do their kind of the work together. But like you had that experience in working client in graphic design where you were the client.
Yeah.
So it was good for you to have that experience because you now have that vision from the other side. And like when you work in a video production place, you're like, oh shit, and when I came out of that, luckily I was quite interested in the whole business side, so I was watching and paying attention, but a lot of them come out there and go, oh, well, I just thought this is how it worked. And it's like, yes, because the admin people were doing all that shit for you.
Yeah.
The producer was doing this for you.
Yeah.
The CEO was doing this for you. The girl in the office who was taking all the calls was, doing that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, now I have to do all of that.
Yeah.
And these people coming out aren't charging for that, and they don't realize that, and they think, they're doing the right thing, but I don't think they always necessarily are.
Yeah, and I get asked that actually quite a bit. People are like, what should I be charging? And I always say to young guys and girls when they message me and they started out, I'm like, if you're just starting out, you're better to do a few jobs free of charge than to charge a shit price. If you charge less, you devalue it. If you charge nothing for it, it's accepted it's a learning curve. So I'm always like, when people come to me and they're like, when do you stop charging? When do you start charging? And I'm always like, go and find yourself like 5 jobs to do for free at the start and make sure everyone's in a different sector. Start each job, go and find one in food, find in entertainment, one in like business, 5 different sectors that show a different view of it. Go in, explain what they are, and give them a cut down version. Like, go and say, I'll produce you a 30-second video for free if you let me come in. And then from that, you've built up your portfolio. But once you've done that, then you have to go, right, what's my time worth? How long did that take me?
I think there's a lot to be said as well, and it can be quite hard sometimes, but it's to and I got a few people on my roster which I haven't used yet because obviously there's no jobs at the moment, just saying, look, I'm new in the industry, I'm new doing this, can I come and work for you for a day? Or shadow you for a day, which I think is super important. And generally I don't like not paying those people because I think their time to me is valuable. But if you go, even if it's like 50 quid or 100 quid a day or whatever it is, and to me it's like, well, just the fact that I can have someone else help carry my shit it's like, that's true. Worth 50 or 100 pounds for me because I can't be bothered. But again, it's like, it would be nice just for them to see, it's like, oh, you have to do this. And I'd there's certain jobs that you do, and you'd give them these jobs to do throughout the day, and they're like, oh, that's a really shitty thing. When are we actually going to film anything? It's like, it doesn't work this way. You've got to fucking sit there with the client for 2 hours being held hostage while we go through this. And they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And it's like, this is the corporate video world, son.
And like you're saying there, like client conversations, the amount of times, like it's funny, I just got off an email with someone who asked, I was chatting to you about this off cam, but people asked me to, like, a simple request came through, and then when I asked a bunch of questions, it turned out it was quite a lot more work required. And then I was like, look, I'll go away and have a think about what's involved here. And then I got an email back and actually just hold off on that and let me know what work you've done to date. We're just going to hold on this. There's some client wants to do some stuff. And I was like, well, I haven't done anything because I haven't given you any sort of quote. And it's weird because I was like, I'm going to go away and work out what's involved and come back to you with a plan. And like part of that plan is a phrase that I'd never heard until I worked in agencies called ideation, which for me was just like coming up with the idea. But people do not, they undervalue that. And I have been tricked, not like on purpose, but I have fallen victim to giving away the idea free so much because I get so enthusiastic in a chat. And sometimes you give away, you have to know how much of an idea to give away to tease them, to get them to hire you to produce your idea. That's if you're an ideas person. I always say I'm ideas before production. But like my ideas are my strong point and my ability to get them done. But the amount of times, dude, I've gone in and just sat down and been like super stoked to be like, oh, we could do this and this. And they're just like, love it, love it, love it, love it. And then you never hear from them again. And then there's like, oh, I see you fucking produced that yourself without me. And I've actually had a couple of people who are now on my blacklist who are like red flagged as I'll never work with you again because I gave them ideas written, like in emails, written down, and they just produced them themselves. And I was like, do you not see? And they're like, well, what? You don't own IP. I'm like, what? What? Literally, I gave you the idea. Like, here's you accepting the idea. So it's fucking lots
and then
to
it's
learn.
hard because and the thing is, anyone listening to this that is just starting out or is like relatively new, don't think that me and Dylan are like perfect. No. We still have conversations like on a daily, weekly basis. Like we have conversations. Dylan will say, oh, this happened with X and X client, and I'll be like, oh, have you thought about this, that, and the other? And he goes, oh, I didn't know that. And he, the same comes back to me. It's like, oh, this happened. He's like, well, have you thought about this?
Yeah.
And so it's good to actually have a little
Well, that's kind of what started this
community of you.
podcast. This whole conversations thing started a bit of back and forth banter, but mostly we were chatting about professional like help and advice, because I think if freelancers quite often forget to talk to each other, and there's no like network to bounce things off. So you and I sitting down and just chatting about these issues are really helpful. So if you know people who are in the same sort of boat as you, maybe someone, get a mix of people at different levels and just chat to each other. And like, the only advice I can give is don't hold back on information with people. This idea of being protective about clients and costs and stuff, it may seem like a great idea at the beginning, but most people are holding back on like a £700 job, and you're like, it's not worth you not just discussing that with your peers. Because you're going to undercharge, you're going to screw someone over, and
and then that way you can all bring each other up as well. Because if you go, oh, you know what, I did that job for £700, there'll be other people in your group going, you charged what? How are you getting away with that? And it's like, well, I'm not getting away with that. That's how much it costs. And then those other people will hear that and go, fuck it, I'm doubling my prices. I mean, that Chase Jarvis guy, he always says double your price. And I said this to Dylan the other day, and I don't know if we discussed this. I was like, normally people go, when you're thinking about charging something for a job, give them a figure that you find uncomfortable. Because when you give them a figure that you find uncomfortable, you can always go down from that. So if you go, oh, it's going to cost you $2,000, and you'll go, I don't know if I can charge $2,000. You know what the worst case scenario is? Maybe they give you $1,000 for it. And you were initially planning on charging them $700. So you've won by $300, and sometimes it's not going to work. But the thing is, it's just, I think, choose that amount that makes you feel uncomfortable.
I think you're also, as well, you're this is something I've learned recently, you're better to charge more, and then if you've actually enjoyed the process and it was seamless, and I did this recently with someone where I was like, here, actually, do you know what, dude, here's the invoice, it's £200 less, and the guy was like, oh wow, and I was like, look, it didn't take me as long as I thought it would, and he's like, I appreciate your honesty, I'd love to keep working with you, and I think that's because what happens is, and I fell victim to this really early, where I'm very honest and open. I'm not snidey or deceitful or to hold back on anything. What I tell you is the truth. So I'm like, well, look, that'll take me a day to film and a day to edit, so here's my price, all right? And I'll give them, so say for example, I go to and I'll be like, that's going to take me a day to shoot, day to edit. And then what happens, they go, okay, cool, so I give them an accurate price for that. And then what ends up happening is I send it, they're all cool, and then a week later they go, hey, can we just make a tweak? And I'm like, oh yeah, cool, it'll take me like 10 minutes to tweak that, just give us a minute. Oh yeah, no rush. And then the next day, have you got that done yet? And I'm like, well, I'm actually just doing other work. Oh yeah, it's just that we need this for the end of the day. And you're like, oh shit. So then you put something aside and you have to go find that server, or go through all that bullshit to get it running. And then before you know it, you're like, oh fuck, I've actually just lost 2 hours of time. And then you give it to them until which they come back with another. Before you know it, there's been back and forth and you've worked another half day. And sometimes that's a whole day or another 2 days. I've had jobs that have been signed off, and 6 months later someone's come back and gone, I've lost the WeTransfer link. I was like, 7-day expiration. Could you send it again? And I'm like, that's backed up. That takes an hour to go back and get my server, all that shit. Then they go, can we make a small tweak because this info is now 8 months out of date? And it's like, the problem is...
And you have to charge for that.
And it's hard to... And then you have to discuss change rates, and people are a bit weird with that stuff. But if you had catered this in... but if you'd catered it in early... Like if you say, well, you know, look, I now go, like, it would probably take me a day to edit, so I'm going to add an extra half day onto the price because I'm pretty certain these people are going to tinker back and forth. And then at least that way you have wiggle room if it doesn't. It always goes over.
Do you do... Because what I try and do now is, like, it's going to... If I'm doing it, like, it'll take... Okay, so actually the shoot day is the easiest thing because it's like, well, that's a flat rate.
Yeah.
You know, depending on how big the job is, I might need to get a drone guy, sound guy, whatever. But that's like a known, which is always really good. But then it's the edit time. So I always tend to get the edit will probably, if it's a standard corporate video, it's like, oh, it's going to cost this much. And then I'll say it with 2 rounds of changes.
Yeah.
Because, and then if beyond those 2 rounds of changes, it's going to cost like £100 an hour or whatever it is. And then I said, so please bear in mind when you're giving me your changes, can you collate them all before
that's a good point.
You send them? Because, you know, people do go on holiday, people do miss it. And the big trouble I find a lot is that the quote collector is the person that goes out, because the CEO will go, I need a video for the company, and then they'll send that down the chain, and then that person will deal with you, and they'll go, well, we want this, we want this, we want that, and then you go, fine, great, you deliver it as per their instructions. It then goes up the chain of command,
Yeah.
and they're like, we didn't want a fucking blue car in there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're dealing with the monkey, not the organ grinder.
Yeah.
So that's another thing: is always try and speak to the person that pays the bills, because generally you get someone a bit lower down in the company, and they don't actually have final say. You know?
Yeah.
Not all the time, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like something that, because we work quite a lot with bigger companies where there's far more. I mean, I know some of the companies you work, there's not that many people in between.
Yeah.
But like with us, there's like about 4 or 5 maybe, and then there's like a board of directors above that, you know, and it's just
Yeah.
like, make sure everyone that needs to see it sees it before you start sending all these changes like in dribs and drabs.
Yeah, and that's
it's,
what you're saying, dribs and drabs, is right, because this is maybe something I need to tighten up on as well, because people don't understand that, like, they'll see like a batch of changes as in a batch of emails back and forth, but it's like, no, you get them all, gather them all, send them to me in one email. Not, hey, can you tweak 1 minute and then another little tweak. I had this
because a lot of these people, go on, sorry.
I had this great creative director who I worked under years ago called Ian McFarlane, and he said to me, create an assumption list right at the start.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what's that? And he was like, well, the things you assume the client wants. Write down, like, right, based on what you've told me, I am assuming that this is what you want, this is what you want in it, this is how long you want it, this is the kind of music. And basically all the things that you, because the amount of times people go, oh yeah, I totally with you. And then you just go and start to create what you want. And then that's where you can minimize changes by putting this assumption list together at the beginning, send it back. The amount of times they go, oh, sorry, no, I didn't mean that. I want this very particular thing. So I do that now very early on. I mean, it's only assumption list to me. To them, it's a checklist of just things I need to double check.
Yeah.
But write that assumption list for every single job. That really saves my bacon.
Yeah.
And he's a vegan.
No, that's
that
good.
guy.
I've not done that.
There you go.
Saves my fake bacon.
Saves my fake
bacon. Faken.
So,
That's what they should call that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pop up. Keep moving the camera. I've reset the studio a bit here.
Oh, yeah, it does look quite nice.
Thanks.
I like it.
Do you like this desk better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's much more desky than the other one.
This is the desk for my Belfast.
Oh, from your
studio.
office.
Yeah, and then
I
I've
thought
got
I
another. And then
recognised
I've got
it.
another one behind me here, the black one, which was my analog desk in my studio in Belfast, which I drew and wrote and stuff on. But I've now got 2 monitors. I've put my proper monitor up now. I'm still work in progress. There's drills and things lying about, but it's coming together. I did, however, drop a big old fucking piece of wood on my foot today. I have a bad habit for doing things in bare feet. I love bare feet.
That's
right?
typical South African.
Yeah. Actually, do you know, I like the other day. Where was it? Recently, I one-wheeled somewhere in bare feet.
Really?
Yeah, Pam was like, you haven't got shoes on.
That's playing with fire.
I was like, I was going to the shop, and she's like, you haven't got shoes on. I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. She's like, you're what? And I was like, I'm one-wheeling. She goes, you haven't got shoes. I was like, yeah, but it's fine, because I would skateboard and stuff before, and maybe not ride bikes because that actually does hurt. But so much. It's liberating. Bare feet are liberating. Anyway, today I went outside, lifted up some wood panels from the old floor to carry them outside, put them in a pile. And I lifted up like way too many of them in one go. You think
you've been lazy, weren't you?
Yeah, I don't like doing 2 runs, so I lifted them up, and then I thought I had them all lengthwise across me, but there was a bit in the middle that wasn't as wide as the gap between my arms, and it slipped out and fell like lengthwise straight onto my fucking big toe.
Jeez.
Like bang.
Jeez.
I was like this quite loudly in the road. And then went fuck. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I was outside. I'd been outside for quite a while, so my foot was kind of numb anyway because it was cold. It wasn't until I came in and it started to heat up. I was like, sweet baby Jesus, this is sore. So currently it's taped to the other foot. It's like really quite black, and the other toe's dented, and my other foot's a bit dented, and I've got it taped up because it was moving too much and hurting. So who knows? May have fractured it.
May have fractured it. Well, your camera's going to run out in a second. You've probably got about 10 seconds left.
Already done it, fella.
Already done it. Jeez, I wondered why you just disappeared for a second.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. That's where we're at.
So, yeah. Wow. So you remember the other day we were talking about do what you can't.
Yeah.
So you can't, or do what you shouldn't. You shouldn't be one-wheeling in bare feet carrying bits of wood.
Well, I wasn't one-wheeling while carrying the wood. No, the one-wheeling is separate. This was just,
okay.
That was just me explaining, how dare
Oh, sorry, no, I got a bit confused there. Well, I thought because carrying all that wood on the one wheel, that's your bare feet.
No. What did I do recently, though? I did one wheel recently with something really stupid. What was I doing? Oh, I one-wheeled round to my dad's house because I have keys to his shed with his tools and stuff in it. So I one-wheeled round to his house on the weekend to get some tools, and I came back with like a work stand and a fucking jigsaw in my hand. One-wheeling down the road.
You had shoes on?
Yeah, I had shoes on, but one-wheeling down the road like that. So there you go.
No, I have recurring dreams of like I have this thing in my dreams, like it's always like my big toenail gets peeled off or nails coming off.
Ooh.
It's a recurring dream, and that for me, when I see you going like one wheel barefoot or cycling bare feet, all I can picture is just my feet just getting dragged along the floor and it all just ripping off.
Yeah. Well, see,
nice image.
I've had that a few times because we used to play cricket in the street in South Africa. Actually, to be honest with you, my brother and I, when we lived at home with my folks, I lived with my folks till I was about 22, and from the age of about up to the age of 22, in fact, still now, if he comes home, we have these plastic wickets. We'll go stick in the street. And tennis ball and a bat. We'll just play. We like just men in their 30s just playing cricket in the middle of the street, and people think that's weird over here. In South Africa, that's totally normal. Families do it, not on like a motorway. That's just asking.
No. I like a local
road.
street.
Back road.
Yeah, right.
And the amount of times I've run to do something and then just misjudged the lifting of a foot and dragged it along the tarmac. Skin off your toe.
Oh my god.
Also,
that's like
worst thing I've ever done in bare feet.
Oh god.
Stepped in dog shit. There's nothing more fucking disgusting. It's just like
the worst thing I've ever had happen to my foot when I was younger was it was New Year's Eve. I was around my friend's house. We were having a party, obviously, and I was running around running a house barefoot, and we were like loads of drinking and smoking of things going on, and I ran down into the lounge and I felt this thing in the ball of my foot, like at the back, and he had a chair, like his parents had a chair there, and there was this big like nail that was probably about that long, which is about half an inch.
Oh.
And it went all the way in to the bottom of my foot, and I had to pull it out. Luckily, I think because I was a bit drunk. Oh yeah, and luckily the next day I didn't get a tetanus jab or anything like that. I just put a bit of cream on it, a plaster, moved on with the day. But that was because when I looked up, you look at the ball of your foot and you're like, oh, there's something stuck in it, and then you pull it out and it just keeps on coming. And coming. You're like, oh my god, that was like half an inch, 2/3 of an inch long.
That is
but
horrible.
I survived. I'm still here. Yeah,
I did that on drawing pins in school when I was a kid. Someone threw drawing pins into the change room while we were all getting changed for football or something, and stood and had like two of them in my heel. Real little fuckers.
You got kids, haven't you? You obviously.
Kids. But I don't throw drawing pins out in front of them.
No, Lego.
No. Oh, actually, fucking great. A couple of months ago, Katie came walking out of a room, and I'm always like, well, Katie, would you put your Lego away? Katie, put your Lego away. Doesn't listen. And then she comes out of the room, and she stood on her own Lego. And her face, I just looked, she was like, ah! And I was like, oh.
There you go.
Payback, you little bitch. Pick up your Lego. And then she fell on the ground, like holding her foot. Pam and I were like, well, that'll teach you.
That'll learn ya.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, that's us. That's good. It's been a good episode. That was functional. I've had a few people say, actually, can you talk about video production?
Oh, well, there you go.
So
that's
there you
for
go.
them.
That's for you.
All two of you.
That's for you guys, yeah. The rest of you who have tuned out 3 minutes in, whatever.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
What's happening tomorrow?
We have a guest on tomorrow.
Is it Thursday already?
No, it's Thursday now when they're listening. Dude, best not mention dates on the show. Best just say today, yesterday, tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, but it's Thursday when they're listening.
Okay.
So they'll be hearing this on Friday.
What? No, they won't.
Yeah, because we'll be uploading this. No, they'll be uploading. We'll be uploading this on Thursday.
Yeah.
But they'll be.
So the guest will be for them.
Friday.
It's on Friday.
Yeah, we're gonna try to have a guest on the show on Fridays. We're gonna call it.
Yeah.
Guest Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got it. Friend Friday.
Friend Friday. Friday with friends.
Friday with friends.
Fabulous friends on Friday. And we thought who better to bring on as
Are we
our
going to tell
first
them?
guest
We're telling them now.
is